Well, essentially, each payroll, they're going to start the process. I'm using air quotes here. I know you can't see that, but essentially, they're going to go through the same process. They're going to start their payroll, and then we just kind of ask that they verify the period beginning and ending dates. We can have multiple batches. For example, you might have a batch per frequency. We have a number of employers that have a weekly and a biweekly, or maybe a biweekly and a monthly. We have other employers that like to have batches by department. So, I mean, again, very granular in how far you can get down into the thing here. But essentially, this is all pre-populated. All the user really has to do is verify everything, and then click on the big old green start button. And they'll get a little message there that their payroll is being started. Don't really have to do anything. The screen refreshes automatically. So I'm going to bounce back to the top for just a moment, and you'll notice that now if I were called away or I had to log out, when I came back in, the presentation has changed. So now my start button is checked off. Don't have to do that again. Now I can go right down to payroll entry. So I'll click on that, and I'm right back where I left off.
But it's going to have security as far as logging back in if you're away from your desk for a certain period of time, right?
I'm sorry. I think that was about auto logouts.
Yeah, I mean, you have rules about that, right? So if you left, somebody just couldn't come to your desk and process payroll on your behalf?
No,
okay.
You're absolutely right. There is a hard-coded time constraint. If memory serves, I think it's 10 minutes, but it might be 20. We are looking at introducing a user variable, but for the time being, yeah, if you walk away, go get a cup of coffee or check your Facebook or whatever, and you don't do anything on this page, it definitely will log you out, yes.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at the kind of long drawn-out method of payroll entry first, and we call that employee pay entry. And again, the system's designed to be as flexible as you need it to be. So your clients with more convoluted payroll means, maybe they have a lot of salaried and commission types, or maybe they have certified payroll. There's a lot more detail that goes into a certified payroll as opposed to just a regular shop payroll. So this screen is designed to be an employee-by-employee type affair, and we can populate a number of pre-populated codes. We can filter that based on criteria, so one department might have one set of codes, another department might have a completely different set of codes. And in this view, we simply enter some numbers into the boxes here. Now, Scott is a salaried employee, so I see right off the bat that his salary is pre-populated. So all things being equal, I really don't have to do anything for Scott. But let's say maybe Scott didn't work his full salary. Maybe he was out on FLSA and came back in for a couple of days, and now he's back starting next week. So we can change that, and we can either enter some hours or some dollars. Let's just make sure he's got a rate. Yeah, he's got a rate. Okay. So I'm just going to enter 16 hours, and we'll save that. So this green area is going to change here in a moment when that screen refreshes, because that's going to show us our details. And I can blow that up by clicking on my show details and expand that. So now I can see Scott's full gross to net, including any earnings, all of his employee taxes, any employee deductions, and finally direct deposit if he has one set up. And what I looked at quickly is we have these little views back into that payroll area that we looked at earlier. So I can very quickly see Scott's rates or time off balances or deductions. And if I determine that one of these needs to be changed, I can hop back over to that area quite quickly, go back to my deductions, and maybe, oh yeah, Scott wanted to change his AFLAC down to $77.77. I'll make that a nice number to remember. So we'll save that. And now I've got this new button that takes me right back to payroll entry. So I'll click that. And now I'm right back where we left off with Scott in payroll entry. And we should now see that his AFLAC, yep, AFLAC's updated to $77.77. So again, real quick, real easy to hop around and make changes even on the fly. I've already started payroll. I've already paid Scott. But I can still go back in and do those fine-grained details if I need to.
You're putting the hours in. Would those not pull from some sort of time tracking system?
Well again, absolutely. If you did have a time and attendance system integrated, you would not use this particular screen except for maybe some fine-tuned adjustments, yes.
Okay. Okay. And if you make an adjustment here, did you say, I think you said it was real time, right?
Yes, when you make an adjustment here to any employee information, for example, changing that AFLAC deduction, it is real time, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Some of the other things we can do is we can have multiple checks in the payroll. So, for example, maybe Scott here has worked really hard and diligently, and now he's going to get a little bonus. So on his second check, I can do something like this, maybe apply a bonus. I don't know why this keeps coming in. We'll get rid of that. But maybe on this check, I want to maybe override some things. For example, oh yeah, I want to save that. For example, on this check, I obviously would not want that AFLAC or probably any other insurance deductions to come out because they'll be on the first check. So I can go in on this particular check and I can do things like block all deductions. And maybe our policy is that if you're getting a bonus, you're going to get a paper check because the owner likes to hand it out. So on this particular check and this particular payroll, I can even fine-tune the way Scott gets his bonus payment. So now if I look at this, we should see, yep, he's got no deductions and no direct deposits. So we're just going to tax it, and then he's going to get a net check in the amount of $882.10. And that's very common for...
Could you gross it up easily here? Question I didn't ask anybody else. I just didn't know if you could do that. Say I wanted to give an employee $1,000 and that would be their net. Would the system automatically gross it up to tell you what it needed to be for that?
There is a function that we can do. It's not on this particular screen, and I can cover that. But yeah, we can definitely do that. Okay. But this is, pretty typical for bonuses or vacation buybacks. If you're in some kind of a bargaining arrangement, there's a lot of different reasons you might have multiple checks in a payroll. And we can also even automate those overrides by applying a check type. So if your users or your clients have that kind of activity, we can have multiple check types, and these are all pre-configured to do exactly that: block deductions, block direct deposits, hard code federal tax at 25%. Whatever the client desires, we can hard code that. So then they don't have to go in, override all those details on every single check. All they have to do is pick the appropriate check type. Okay. And as we said before, the bar operates in the same function, so I can move from one employee to the next. I can drop down my list here, or once again, if I wanted to, I can hop to a particular employee simply by starting to type some of his name. It'll take me right there. So again, that functionality is the same pretty much everywhere. So, okay, so we kind of took a pretty close look at the employee payroll entry. And again, acknowledging that if you have a time and attendance system, all of this is kind of moot except for cases where you might be doing some overrides. I do want to touch very quickly on what we call batch pay entry. Because again, if you don't have a time and attendance system, then obviously you'd be entering it. We do have a quick and easy solution that we call batch pay entry. And this is pretty unique in the industry in that you can configure it on the fly by companies. So you can have a number of different templates, and some of our users set up specific templates for holiday weeks or for bonus weeks. And the idea is that for each template, you determine what columns show up, whether they be an hour or a dollar amount. And then instead of going through the long, drawn-out employee by employee, you can simply go through the cells here. So we'll pay, that happens to be me, so I'll pay myself 40 hours. And I've been working pretty hard, so we'll get a $50 bonus in there for me. And we'll go down here. Here's Clark Kent, another 40 hours. And Clark did really well, so we'll give him $100. And we'll just save that. And now when I go back into that employee pay entry, I would see the details here. So again, this is a customizable, configurable, quick and easy way to enter information.
Is there any way that you could assign everybody gets 40 hours so you don't have to type in each cell?
You can. Yeah, we have the ability to either automatically pay salary or hours. Actually, homie, that's fantastic. I love working on a sample database. You never know what you're going to get. This particular individual is set to do exactly that. When we start payroll, it's going to automatically pay this individual, let's see, 80 hours. So yeah, you can do that. It's very common in, again, administrative types, doctor's offices, law offices, where for all intents and purposes, people are salary, but they desire to pay them on an hourly rate. So you can automate that to a high degree as well. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on payroll entry, either the employee or the batch pay entry?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to show you the audit, but first I'm going to go back and we'll address that earlier question regarding grossing up. So I'm going to go back to my status, and under the status tab there, we have some tools and calculators. And we have a couple of different features, one of which is that you can use our manual check calculator to essentially gross up. We also have an onboard retro pay calculator. If somebody was to be paid, you know, get an increase of 50 cents 2 weeks ago and HR forgot it or something, we do have a solution that you can calculate based on hours already paid what the resulting makeup should be. But using the manual check calculator, I can, let's go back to my friend Bill here. So this is a multifunctional tool. It's kind of, it's designed so that if an employee was missed, the user can create a check in their office and they can either write one out of AP, or the system can even print on demand a check on their stock. Most of our clients just turn it over to AP, but you can print it. But one of the things that you're able to do is tell it that you want to do a net to gross. And in this regard, you can actually give them, you know, what you want the final net pay to be. You can go through and elect whether or not you want to include or exclude deductions. Typically, you would not in this case. You can override taxes, and you see that my little shade here is updating as I go through this. But essentially, based on the fact that I want to pay them $1,000 net, it's grossed it up so that the gross pay, the resulting gross pay, and again, no deductions or anything, would be about $214, so $1,214.77. So at this point, I can save this. It'll run through payroll. If I wanted to give them the check now, I could give them a check number and either save it or print it out. The other thing that I could do is also commit this to the database, and then on the following payroll, we'll actually print this check. So a lot of different ways you can use this tool. And I'm not going to save this. And then the other thing I did want to show is regarding the audit phase here. Once your clients have entered payroll or imported their time and made any final adjustments, we do have some pretty strenuous auditing tools. The first and foremost that we have is what we call batch totals. And it's a very high level. This would be probably used if you are integrated into a time system. Typically, your time system has a report. It's got 1,000 regular hours and 250 overtime and 12 holiday. Again, this is a high level to show you what's in this batch at the summary level. And you can put little control numbers in here. So if you know that you were supposed to pay out $2,000 in bonuses, and I don't have any, I do have regular hours. I was supposed to have 500 regular hours. It'll actually prompt them. So it's kind of a fail-safe kind of a feature here. And again, it's real high level. It's designed, this is probably the first thing the client would use if they use it at all. Much more granular is what we call the pre-process register. And this is a full-on, prior to processing, gross to net report. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take all my default sorts and options. I'm going to click on Run Report. And again, that's going to pop up in a new window. And what we'll see here in a moment is, again, gross to net for everybody in this batch. And the idea is that this is your final look to verify the employees are being paid correctly. So here's our regular cast of characters here: Bill Black, Scott Wilson. We see that Bill's getting his salary, Scott's getting his salary, and that bonus that we put in. And then we can see any employee deductions and employee taxes and even net pay and direct deposit amount. Now, if I notice that one of these should be changed, I can very quickly go out. So let's go back in our buddy Scott here. And maybe he's not supposed to get this bonus. Maybe he didn't do quite as well as we thought. So I'll just go ahead and delete this entire check. And then when that's done, we'll go back to the audit page. And what we can do is rerun that pre-process register, and it will take that into consideration. So the idea is that you can run and rerun this report until that payroll is correct. Okay, so here's our revised report. We see Bill Black, and we see Scott Wilson, and he's only getting a salary check. That bonus check has completely disappeared. Again, a standard PDF. You can sort, you can filter, you can store it on disk to a PDF file. You can email it to a supervisor. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you, I don't have any set up, unfortunately, but this feature that we call Run Verification Test. And this is where we can basically plug in little pieces of code that show up in this window that run logical tests against the payroll data before you submit it. And things that we've done in the past, or for all our FLSA exempt employees, verify that nobody's being paid more than 80 hours. Or if your client has 100% direct deposit policy, make sure that no employees have a live net check. Everybody's got a live direct deposit or one of those nifty debit cards everybody's carrying around these days. Or maybe if you're a multi-state employer, just verify that if you got employees in Ohio and Pennsylvania, make sure that their local taxes are set up appropriately. So these are customizable by company, and they show up as essentially little pass-fails, and you run them. And then if there are records returned, then you have the ability to print it out and go back and correct those, and which time you can come in and run these tests again. So this is even more granular than that pre-processed register, because these are specific logical tests specific to the company that might not make sense to any other client in our book of business, but they might be very important to your client.
So if we go back to the start button and the next button, so I can see from a payroll administrator, can finish walking me through that. Can you do that? The start button and yeah. So now we're okay. So now I'm start payroll entry. But if I didn't want to ever look at those payroll entries for whatever reason, so I had everybody on salary and it was the same amount as it was last time, could I just click through? Can I click through?
Oh,
or do I
absolutely.
have to actually look at every? Okay. I don't have to look at every employee, right?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. And then I'm in the audit. You showed us that, and then I just hit finish, and then I'm done.
Well, you do have to, this is the one little caveat, we do require that you run this pre-processed register at least one time per payroll, per batch. So if you got multiple batches, you have to run these and kind of review them. But yeah, then you just approve it, and once it's approved, it's still not submitted. And this would be in case you have yet another pair of eyes that want to look at it, maybe an accountant or an HR administrator, for whatever reason. This prevents further data entry, though, so that they cannot change anything in that payroll. And then once everything's approved, then, you just go to this finish button, and then this audit button will be checked off. So this will allow you to submit payroll. And at that time, that's go time. That's when we do what we do. We're going to pay the taxes, send out the direct deposits, email people, let them know that their check's ready, whatever it is that we've set up and been tasked to do.